Hey folks, Chris here with the Nub Africa. It's official. Finally, 16th of October, South African Rugby Union SARU announces that the reigning Castle Lager Rugby Championship champions, the Springboks, will not be participating in the 2020 campaign. Beyond disappointing and sad to see happen, but the dismantling, the destruction of the reigning Rugby Championship champions and William Webb Ellis Rugby World Cup champion Springboks is well underway, and we see it happening each and every day. The African National Congress would normally be the target of my ire here, or SARU. Lord knows there's plenty to complain about SARU and its racist policies and its bankrupt management of the rugby union in South Africa. But for once, I don't know that I can really blame SARU. This really is a consequence of the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 hysteria that is gripping the world and its cowardly, callow political leaders who have no concept of science and try to hoodwink us with their idiocy. So what's happening here? Well, Springboks had to fly out by this weekend, Sunday, the 18th, in order to get to Australia, which is where the entire tournament is being held this year. Now, this is complicated by the fact that many of the 46 players on the Springboks squad that have been selected by the coach, 24 of them are currently working abroad and playing abroad in Europe, Japan, and getting clearance, health clearance to leave those places, particularly with Europe freaking out over rising cases and their inability to connect the obvious logic that when you test demonstrably larger numbers of people, you will get more positive results. They seem very confused by that. I don't know how they missed that. But they're freaking out over a so-called second or third wave in Europe. We're talking about world-class athletes on the peak of their physical condition. Anyway, regardless, SARU has made a decision, and ostensibly they made it based on player health. They're concerned about player health, specifically getting players to Australia on time, and more importantly, not the Wuhan coronavirus, but actually a legitimate concern when it comes to player health, and that is that players need to have, according to Rassie Erasmus, 400 minutes of test match playing time or time on the pitch before we can put them into a test match. That's a very sound position to take. My big concern with the Springboks and with Currie Cup and Super Rugby, of course we see that Super Rugby never returned, but my concern with return to competitive rugby was that there would be a rash of player injuries because players aren't fit, because they haven't had contact on the field, and this would cause problems. And that's been my concern with the Springboks. As much as I'm disappointed to see them not participate in the Rugby Championship, at the end of the day, for once, I'm actually in support of SARU's decision. Not that they had much of a choice here, but I am supportive of it because I am concerned about the quality of the squad we would have fielded in Australia. And I was very concerned that without proper time on the pitch, that the Springboks would have been an embarrassment, and not only would have not retained their title, but would have performed very poorly, or certainly not up to the standards that we expected. The renewed standards for the Springboks brought the glory brought back by Rassie Erasmus. So I was very concerned about that. So I'll support SARU's decision here. In this case, I think it's prudent, not because of COVID, but because of player health and fitness and a team gelling as a team. It is a very difficult position for national sides when your players are strung out all over the planet in Ireland and England and France and Italy, Japan, USA, playing rugby abroad, as well as back home in South Africa. It's a bit of a challenge. And it's not just for the Springboks, but it's for other Southern Hemisphere teams whose talent plays all over the world, like New Zealand, the All Blacks, and of course the Wallabies as well. But there you have it, folks. The situation officially on the 16th of October 2020. The reigning Castle Lager Rugby Championship South African Springboks have withdrawn from the 2020 Rugby Championship. Now we'll include just the three remaining teams, the Pumas from Argentina, the Wallabies from Australia, who will host the tournament, the entire tournament in Australia, and the dreaded All Blacks from New Zealand. And there you have it. Now, as far as responsibility for this, I will not give the African National Congress and its unelected, unaccountable, undemocratic, capricious National Coronavirus Command Council body, which circumvents law and the parliament, as well as the Constitution, with its capricious decisions. I will lay blame on those clowns because they are in a major way responsible for this, and their hysterical treatment of the whole situation in South Africa, their mismanagement of the COVID crisis, their inability to understand science, their lack of understanding of epidemiology and infectious disease, and all of the wrong decisions they made, from idiotic, stupid decisions like banning the sale of open-toed shoes, the ban on e-commerce, the ban on tobacco, all of which made no sense whatsoever unless your goal was to destroy South Africa's economy. Now they're destroying South Africa's rugby. We see that all the time with idiotic rules that they apply to the rugby teams around the country. We've already seen, sadly, the Southern Kings franchise fold. It's now liquidated. What's happening right now happened today on the 16th. Well, it's actually after midnight, so now it's the 17th. But on the 16th and 17th of October, Care for Kings, hashtag Care, the number 4 Kings, a nonprofit entity set up by Bram van Straten, a former fly half for the Springboks, Springbok number 671 with 21 test matches to his credit. Also played for Western Province and Stormers, as well as the Bulls and Cell Sharks and Leeds, I believe he played for as well. But Bram van Straten, a former coach of the Southern Kings, has organized this initiative to sell memorabilia, auction it off online on the 16th and 17th of October to raise money for the staff and players of the Southern Kings who are left holding the bag. They have no resources. They weren't paid their paychecks, and so they were left high and dry when the Kings folded. So he's got this interesting activity going on, and they are auctioning off a number of items. There's still time to sign up for that today, the 17th of October, if you want to bid on some of the memorabilia, the jerseys and equipment. And included in that is Bram van Straten's Springbok blazer, this beautiful green Springbok blazer, a prized possession for any Springbok. He's donated that to the cause to raise money for the staff and players of the Southern Kings. But we've seen the Southern Kings fold. We've seen the Cheetahs removed from Pro 14, and now a move by Saru to move South African clubs like the Stormers and the Lions and the Bulls and perhaps the Sharks to the Guinness Pro 14 Championship. I haven't seen much discussion about moving the English Premier League, but I would recommend that one of those teams also go there. And that's what's coming in the near future for South African rugby in 2021. Obviously not in 2020, the year that hopefully we can all forget. What a miserable year, owing in large measure to the incompetent political leadership or the intentional undermining of society and our economies and social cohesion by leftists. Whichever the case is it incompetence or is it intentional? Whatever the case is, so many politicians, who are actually so few people around the world, have destroyed so many hundreds of millions of lives with their stupidity, their inability to understand science, and their stupid pontificating leftist nonsense. But once again, folks, we've lost the Rugby Championship. Springboks not even participating this year. Rather disappointing for Springbok fans. I realize a lot of people are still angry at Springboks. Misplaced anger, I would say, because the anger shouldn't be directed at Springboks, but their anger should be directed at Siya Kolisi, not the whole team. Regardless, that's the situation. The Springboks not participating in the Kassel Rugby Championship. Disappointed to say the least, but player health should come first, and on that issue, I back Saru. Folks, if you're not a subscriber to Chris White Africa and you have an interest in rugby, feel free to check out my Rugby Ascendant segment on the channel. Look under playlists. You'll find Rugby Ascendant, where I interview rugby players, those involved in the game, and as well as officials, club owners, and also give videos like this where I discuss and analyze issues in the rugby world. And if you're interested in politics or economics, culture, language, feel free to become a subscriber to Chris White Africa by smashing that subscription button right below the video. I think it's on that side. And be sure to toggle the bell icon, and when YouTube gets around to it, they may notify you of my live streams and future videos. If you want to leave a comment, please leave a comment. Always do my best to try to read some of the comments, but there are quite a few on some of these videos. I do my best. And finally, I ask that you smash the like button. Just push that like button right there. Boom. Likes drive viewership, and the more people that see this sort of commentary, the more analysis we have out there, we can actually discuss the events. So once again, folks, the Springboks have withdrawn from the 2020 Kassel Rugby Championship, and I, like many people, am disappointed. I guess at this stage, I'll say, go Pumas. Take care, folks.